where you would start with any scalp is perfect entry. So you look at any coin for perfect entry, and immediately what sticks out to me is this origin breakout level right here. So this would be something I'd be looking at in the future as possible entry. And I would kind of in a downturn market where you're looking at in a downturn market where you're looking at coins moving down, you're looking at where's the best spot to buy in order to scalp, because scalping always starts off as perfect entry. If you get perfect entry on any coin, right? Perfect entry leads to this, right? Perfect entry, right? Perfect entry equals less risk, number one. So number one, you have less risk off perfect entry. Number two, you have more options with the trade. Whether you go into something, we won't do that. Whether you go into something like, whether it turns into a scalp, a swing, or a position trade, the perfect entry gives you the option to assess and move forward past that. So when you think about perfecting entry, it gives you less risk inherently to start across all three positions, right? So whether you're scalping, it will give you less risk. Whether you're doing swing trades, it will give you less risk. And whether you're doing position trades, it will give you less risk. Number three, everything starts as a scalp, right? This is kind of a process. We don't go into every coin saying we want to scalp. We don't look for a position trade by saying we want to scalp. Rather, the first thing we do is we perfect entry so that these options are available to us. So less risk, turning your trade into something, whether you want scalp, swing, or position, you make that decision after you identify perfect entry, because really there shouldn't be any coin taken that's not identified as what you see as perfect entry. It doesn't mean it has to hit the lowest price. Perfect entry is not always lowest price. So let's clear that up a bit with a little bit of a PS on the bottom. A subculture, as a subtext to this. Perfect entry doesn't mean buying the ATL / move low, right? So it doesn't mean that you have to buy an all-time low or the bottom of a range or something like that. You could get into GTO right now, and it's a perfectly acceptable time to get into it because it's pre-breakout. And if you feel that there's no room to move down, then that becomes perfect entry. It doesn't mean you have to only enter things when they're at these extreme scraping the bottom lows, because when the markets move up, you're never going to see that again. So you're just never trade. So, right now we try to find the bottom of coins because that's what the market dictates for us. In the future, it's not going to be that case, right? Perfect entry is perfect entry in the moment, right? More options, right? It gives you swing, scalp, and position trades. Again, we don't need to go over that too much. Let's just put a period on this, period on that. Everything starts as a scalp. From there, you assess what you want out of the move, right? So, and then before this, the criteria before even entering this is obviously do your TA, do your due diligence. Prior to below, you do your TA and do your due diligence. Even with a scalp trade, you need to understand where your trade can go and what your levels can be. So when you start looking at something, you identify first and foremost. Let's get this out of the way. You identify first and foremost what can be the perfect entry in that moment to give you the least amount of risk, right? So I would start with red by looking at something like where its breakout point would be, right? Like this kind of right here, which was the origin level. You move up to this hold. This was a tested hold level. So if you have a tested hold there, you have two levels here. You have the next hold, right? So this is back tested fractally. I wouldn't consider this a back tested fractal when it comes up like this and down like that, because on the weekly time, on a weekly sense of things, this is not back tested. Possibly even on the daily time frame, this is not back tested either. My kid's turning off the lights. This is not back tested either in a fractal time sense. So when you actually look at this, you have to kind of identify some of these bottoms. And there we have the first hold hit, the second hold hit. This is a tested level. Now you would assume the back end of this would be hit here, kind of the breakout point. And if that's not hit, you would then actually go to like an untested hold, which would be something way down here. So then you kind of move forward in the market space and look where you're at right now. Is this forward in the market? Oh, that is right now. Oh, shoot. I thought we were way back there. Oh, my mistake. What are we on, a 4 hour? Okay. So actually we can get rid of this. it's no longer relevant. We can get rid of this. This was never tested. And there you go. You have your two hold levels. So hold level 1 gets hit, move up. Very straightforward move, very simple. You even had the hold level here get hit and move up. So Ren has been extremely respective to the TA, right? It has been moved up, pulled back. Kiddo's turning off the lights again. That's okay. Moved up, pulled back, right? Moved up, pulled back, right? So very, very standard. All of these would have been identifying the perfect entry in the move. These would have all been identifying the least amount of risk in the trade. So any of these trades would have started there. Then once you enter the trade, then you can assess what you want to do with the trade, right? You can then, before getting into whether you want this to be a scalp position, whether you want it to be whatever you want it to be, then you can get into that, right? You have this right here, which is the breakout point off of this hold. So you hold the level, you do test the breakout, you move above it, and then voila, you have your big move up to the, probably looks like this right here. Really, it would have been testing whatever the origin was back here. It would have been testing, trying to get to here to break. So that's obviously the breakout point in the future. Prior to that, it would have had the valley test origin here. So you have two origins, this and this. So when you have entered this trade at this point here, when you have identified what perfect entry looks like, you can then go, and let's move this up to this top side of the screen. You can then say, okay, we have these points of perfect entry, and maybe we do this. We're going to go like this to do a global, and we are going to draw this one here as the local, and we're going to adapt that one to the hourly to see what's going on here, because those candles are way too radical. So got that there, which is this right here. That's the adaptation of the local, which is fine. We go okay like that. Go back to our floor and assess this trade a little bit here, which will give you very much the breaking point, right? And you'd have to massage through this to see the time frame adaptation, but that gives you your bottom side touch, perfect entry. You have the hold level here, which also would have been perfect entry. Either one of these would have been fine. It depends what your justification is. In my opinion, the hold level is the justification. It does backtest trend. There was some pretty greedy entries here, but it has to depend on what you dictate in that moment as perfect entry. This is very quick TA. It's not like I've gone and completed this move and been in the move in the moment and observed it and drawn these trends and made that decision in the moment. It's very different, right? The best you can do is do your TA and then make your decisions based on that. So when you enter here, right? When you enter here, that's when the process starts of, okay, I have entered this level here. What am I going to do with this now? So we're going to go to the hourly and break that down. So you have swing to swing, which never has a hard close over it. So you can see exactly why this thing broke out, right? You can see the adaptation, the base point adaptation as to where this was, or sorry, the base point without adaptation and the reach point with adaptation to where it is and how accurate it's giving you this breakout moment. You see the hold level here, which was tested. We're going to color these hold levels a bit differently too. We are going to color them first, second, third. So we're going to do very much the same color scheme of local, global, just to see the severity of them and give them a little bit of visual difference here. And legacy, hold. So kind of, and these would be just like 1, 2, 3. And as this breaks, you guys know that this one here becomes the local because it's the local part of the move that's being targeted. That becomes a global and the legacy. And the severity of the move changes and adapts, just like our trends, just like everything else, it all adapts in the moment, right? So, and then you'd actually have an origin up here too. You'd actually have this up here too. So we're going to do these origin guys for this as the dotted lines, and we are going to do the same thing. We are going to put them as color coded to the severity, right? Because before you attack the purple, you have to attack the blue. Before you attack the blue, you have to attack the, and there is another one here. Before you attack the blue, you have to attack the green. And we can see that just with these dashed lines here and the difference between the type of line it is, it will just give us what we need for information. So you identify perfect entry. Step 1, you get into the trade. What do you do from there, right? You look at this trend break and say, okay, is this thing breaking out of trend? Are we back testing the level? First and foremost, obviously, you'd be over top of oops, wrong one. You'd be over top of this right here. This is going to be a 15-minute origin. You can already tell that's a 15-minute origin by the way this, and I think you guys can follow along with this now. I've been kind of going through this stuff, but I'm not going to go so slow anymore. I want to go a little quicker. I want to go a little faster, give you guys the benefit of the doubt that everybody here is getting quite advanced with their technicals. So we don't need to break this down and look at this as a 15-minute. You can just tell it's a 15-minute by this pattern right there. You don't need to break it down. You guys are getting like the Neo and Matrix now, seeing it without seeing it, right? So you can see that there's a breakout point here, right? Like, and you can see the original valley is right here. You can see that with this wick up here, that's going to be a breakout point for the future. So you identify this as you have an origin level, you have a hold level, and you have a trend. So when you enter this trade, you have already gotten perfect entry. From that moment on, that's when you're going to make your decision of what do you want to do with this trade. Where's our little chart? Here, right here. Oops, no, wrong one. We need to put that back. And okay, let's zoom in, get our little cheat sheet here. Something like this. Zoom in here. So we really have completed the criteria of assuming the least amount of risk in this move, right? We really have saw the hold level. We know that's going to hold and at least bounce. We can assess if this move is going to fail thereafter, right? We can now be in this trade in the best possible situation and the best possible light to make the most amount of money. Now, this is all very straightforward. The only thing is, did you have your eyes on it, right? Like, did you guys actually see the trade? Because you can, my saying is like, you basically become a chart historian and you could explain the stuff to great detail. And it's like, well, yes, but you actually have to see it unfolding in the moment because it'll happen and you never even charted it. And then you're like, oh, of course, this was a great move. Look at this. Origin level, trend break, hold level, first touch bounce, triple break, boom, gone, right? Like, it's all very straightforward. But with this, well, it's straightforward once you get to this point. It's not so straightforward. Is it, getting to this point where it feels like it's very straightforward and you can follow along step by step is like, wow, it's a huge feat because it took me a long time to figure this stuff out. It's not some simple thing. You have the origin level here. You have the perfect entry here. So you have completed this right here, less risk. You have taken a position that's going to give you the least amount of risk, which will open your options to number 2, which is going to give you more options, whether you want this to be a swing trade, or sorry, a scalp, a swing, or a position trade. I base that generally off the amount of TA that I have done. If I see something like this, where I see first touch bounce, an origin level, a trend break on top of it, the back test of that trend break, and then the holding of a level, it's pretty clear this is going to move up. So the first part of this becomes, are you actually backtesting the valley? So we just go back to the accumulation and distribution cycles of backtesting a valley, right? Like, where can you backtest this valley, which is actually a backtest of this, which is a breakout in the future, right? So then you just go back to your hold levels and inverse levels, right? Which level did you actually test? Are you testing this level? Are you testing this level? At first, you did test the inverse level. You came back, bounced off the inverse to move down. You hit the hold level and you moved up above. Now, there is going to be some type of micro valleys inside of this, and we are going to go break that down right now. That's where we're going right now, because there is going to be some kind of micro valleys inside of here. So this move starts. Okay, can we get that back that far? We can. Oops, no. This move starts as a first back test of the very first valley within this move, right? You see a very, very quick, and even breaking that down prior, there's even a smaller valley in there, which is here. There's even this valley in there, which is here. So you have, when you identify perfect entry, you have kind of these early tell signs that are saying, okay, are we starting a ladder up? Because that's what the key is, right? The key is to start the ladder up. You have to start moving that ladder up, and you can't have a valley here, test it, and then not break above it, right? You have to start the laddering somewhere. So when you look at trend and compression and where a coin will fall before it gets enough momentum to swing it back up and buy, you have to always first start this on these kind of small time frames. This is what a scalp would be, right? Like, everything starts as a scalp. Identify perfect entry and then start this position as a scalp position, because in a scalp time frame, you're going to see whether you are failing some local trend, right? If you are holding the move, like if you bought here, you were worried about it coming down to here. Well, yeah, it did come down a bit, but before it moved up a lot, right? Before this thing moved up, I think 50%, it probably moved up. Ren has a bit of a history of moving up large amounts here. So you have to identify here if the hold is the perfect position, right? You have to start here and say, if you entered here, Where are you going to look for entry? And then you can even break this down locally. Just like we have this trend here, you will have a local trend right here like this, right? You're going to have a local trend from swing to swing. I'm assuming this is a 15 and the 15 looks like it would be approximately here without removing. Didn't trading, wait, I think TradingView updated its, no, that's in the replayer tool. If I actually change timeframes, it's going to, yeah, you can see the local trend there. And this is very local, 5-minute local. So this is a decision you have to make about testing trend and starting as a scalp position, because again, the perfect entry, it starts everything. Whether you held this back all the way to its big move up to 900 sats, wherever that was up here, 1,000 sats, and this was actually a relatively quick move from 700 to 1,000 sats. So that was about 40%. It all starts down here, right? It all starts by the identification of buying a hold level. This was a backside trend that was bought as final entry. I'm sure there's a huge amount of volume that came into here, right? But this is going to bounce more times than not, close to the attunement of 99% of the time. On a large time frame, you're going to see this bounce straight off like that. Again, though, it all starts with that scalp position, right? It all starts with that identification of the there it is. It all starts off with that identification of a scalp position and what you can do with it then. If you have entered here, if you have entered anywhere else, if you're doing anything but take perfect entry, it's too high. It's all about risk control when you scalp, right? And then again, then you can make your decision whether you want to turn this into a position trade, whether you want to turn this into a swing trade, or just keep it as a scalp, right? And then it all becomes very straightforward. Going back to everything, scalping becomes tough because it is doing everything that we know in TA on micro time senses. It's drawing these compression trends, and even here you would have another compression trend like this. So this would be local, global, legacy to break out of the current local. So this would be a local, global, legacy on a 5-minute to back test this right here, which is just a local on the hourly, right? So you'd have and then we'll just draw on this one because I think we have a purple drawer on right now. Legacy, right? So even here, you'd have a local move, and then even this, you'd have. Whoops, we don't want level. We want the actual trend line, right? Then even here, you'd have this to this right here, which would again give you the local time frame backside of trend, which actually was the same backside of trend as the global on a larger time frame on the daily, I believe it was. So even here, you have trend test, fail against trend, bounce off trend, confirm the move up, and move up. So this is the scalping is very much doing all of the TA that we know on a micro time sense, putting all your tools into practice on these small time frames against larger targets, right? These large targets are still here, but you have to build all these small, everything is the same, whether it's a 1-minute chart, and I've said this before many times, everything is the same whether it's a 1-minute chart or whether it is a daily chart or a 4-hour chart or a 1-hour chart. It's all the same. It's just what you're seeing is fractal nature inside of fractal nature. You're just seeing local and globals and legacies attacking what is a legacy up here, which the legacy up here is just a local 1 hour, but that local 1 hour has to do its due diligence and its job and breaking all of its levels and laddering up and doing all those things on larger time frames, right? Like moves always start on small time frames. You always have 5-minute succession moving into something much bigger. So therefore you identify perfect entry. Now you start looking at this thing on a larger time sense. What are you actually looking to get out of the move, right? Like that's where you have to make the decision to say, okay, well, obviously you had a back test of a valley here. You're laddering up, you're breaking this trend here. The break of this trend is pretty clear here. When you look at the chart, you attack the level, fall under trend, break over top of trend. And really this is just all in sense to go after this part of the move here, which is again, just a back tack of this origin level. But this is now a breakout point. So all of this movement down here, well, we can actually delete these two levels. All of this movement down here was in order to attack this origin because this was created as a breakout point right here when it lost trend like this, right? And when it lost this trend here and fell straight down, this was created as an origin level, which is going to be a breakout point for the future. So seeing all this, you have to assess this in the moment and say, okay, well, are we laddering up? Are we back attacking valleys? I mean, it's pretty clear when you look at it. Valley break there, valley break there. You had local trend breaks, backside of trend confirmation, move up against this, move over top of trend, backside confirm, move over top of origin, and then you hold the actual trend backside, and then you just hold the range, which is really just holding the hold level, right? So now you're just holding your hold level, and you're holding your hold level until the trend can confirm on a larger time frame. So then you'd go to the 4 hour and you'd say, we wouldn't say much when the chart does this. There you go. I don't know where my little diagram went either. I think it's gone. We lost our little 1, 2, 3, 4 diagram. That's okay. We don't need it. We were right here. I think the 4 hours may be too far. Okay, so we're looking at this green dotted line. But that was a move up to here. Nope, we're looking at this right here. We wanted to go to the hourly. We're on the 15. Oh, okay, that's perfect. So then we want to see what is happening to the 4 hour green trend. That's what we were looking at. Boy, I wonder who's in charge of TradingView's user experience. It would sure be nice to have a smoother user experience flow to these charts. So then you look at the 4 hour, and you can simply see the back attack of trend right here on a larger time frame. The same things that are happening on the smaller time frame is happening on the larger time frame. Back attack trend, move above the local, back test the hold, and move up to the next level, right? Which is a larger time frame, which the 5 minute allowed the attack of the 15, which allowed the attack of the hourly, which allowed the attack of the 4 hour, therefore creating an origin level in the future. Pretty important breakout point in the future. So this will be a big target in the future as well, right? So that becomes a scalp on Ren, right? And then again, the cycle repeats every time, right? You have the same cycle here. You have a larger level, and this was, we can delete all of this stuff here. Whoops, get rid of that. We do this, we delete that. We can delete this guy here. Local, right? We have this would be local here, and then you have this here, which would go like that into this here, which would be the global, which is now the local, which is going to show us the move in the future. So we can actually just look at this right now. It's very much the same thing here. You have the hold level hit. You have the back attack of valleys in here, right? Same exact thing is going to happen. You're going to have, let's take a look. You're going to have breakout level in here, right there, right? Well, that's actually not a breakout level. That's just a valley there, a valley here, moves up, attacks this. Here it is right here. This would be the local right here. I wonder if it's right here. You see, you'd have two, right? Kind of one side by side, because you need to break both of these. You'd have one there and one there. More so fractally, you would have this only. Yeah, you'd only have this, because fractally, this would be the failure. What are we on, a 5 minute chart? Oh yeah, we're only on a 5 minute chart. Yeah, this is. So this would be it right here. And then you'd have a pullback and a move up. And I wonder even if there's a 15 minute right here. Well, it doesn't matter. We're going to go with this one right now, because it looks actually pretty accurate. This is still coming off a failure. So more so, instead of that, you would have then this one over here fractally. Possibly you would have this right here as the second one. Yeah, that looks about right. And then you very much have the same thing. You identify perfect entry, right? You have the valleys that get you there, which is this right here, right? So you have that valley right there, back attacks the valley, pulls back, hits its hold level, which is this one, I'm assuming right here, or probably back here, this valley back here. It's probably the backside of the range. You have the backside of the range. It holds through whatever trend it made, and then it breaks above its origin levels, right? So it's all very much the same thing. It's just seeing it on a smaller time frame, right? And before it takes its big move up, and it back attacks its level, goes straight through trend, hits trend, breaks above trend off of its hold, right? Right there, breaks trend off of its hold. And is that where we're at right now? Oh, we're current on Ren right now. Oh, okay. So we're current on Ren. So actually, we can go to the hourly chart and take a look at what this looks like. So yeah, and you very much have the, what you want to make with your trade is up to you. How you want to trade it is completely your call. Whether you want to be entering a scalp position, whether you want to be entering a scalp to just leave it to see what it can do, right? That's completely up to you. You can do a hybrid model where you start entering things, and this is what I like to do. I like to have a hybrid model where I enter things as best position and then assess after. I kind of have these juggling of positions. So the way I do it is I do it a little differently. I have this juggling of positions. So I'm very much a big fan of max or large leverage, because when your accuracy is much higher, you can max leverage and have bigger moves, more payoff for your TA.